Gary Cooper, the strong, silent hero of Hollywood's golden age. He was an icon of American masculinity, a man who seemed to embody integrity, honor, and a quiet strength that audiences adored. For decades, he was the face of the American hero, the man every man wanted to be and every woman wanted to be with. But what if the man America loved was hiding a secret that would shatter his carefully crafted image? What if behind that stoic facade there was a private life far more complex and far more tormented than anyone could have imagined? A wild rumor has been festering in the dark corners of Hollywood lore for years, passed along in whispers and revived in sensational YouTube videos. The rumor claims that Cooper kept a secret list, a list of 7 gay actors he dated and then grew to despise. A burn book of broken hearts and bitter betrayals. In this video, we're going to separate fact from fiction. We'll peel back the layers of myth and gossip to find the truth. Is there any evidence to support this shocking story? Or is it just a modern fabrication designed to tarnish a legend? Let's journey into Hollywood's past to uncover the hidden truths of a bygone era. Before we dive into that murky world of rumors, it's important to understand the man the world thought they knew. Frank James Cooper, later known simply as Gary Cooper, was born in Helena, Montana. In 1901, his upbringing in wide-open spaces gave him a rugged self-reliance that would later define his on-screen persona. He didn't plan on being an actor. He sort of stumbled into Hollywood as a film extra and stunt rider, where his tall, lean frame and natural horsemanship made him a perfect fit for the booming Western genre. His rise to stardom was lightning fast. After a memorable 2-minute appearance in the silent classic Wings in 1927, he was cast in his first talkie, 1929's The Virginian. It was here that the Gary Cooper persona was truly born. His delivery of the now-famous line, "If you wanna call me that, smile," cemented his image as the strong, silent type of man of few words but decisive action. America was hooked. Throughout the 1930s and 40s, Cooper became one of the biggest stars in the world. He was the everyman hero in Frank Capra's Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, embodying a simple decency that resonated with Depression-era audiences. He played the pacifist-turned-war hero Alvin York in 1941's Sergeant York, a role that earned him his first Oscar and turned him into a patriotic symbol right before America's entry into World War II. His performance felt so authentic it was as though he wasn't acting at all. He simply was Alvin York. His career hit its peak in 1952 with High Noon, where he played Marshal Will Kane, a man who stands alone against evil out of a deep sense of duty even after his town abandons him. The role won him his second Oscar, and was a masterclass in understated performance. You could feel his character's anguish not through dramatic speeches but through the weary look on his face. He was the ideal American hero. The studios, especially Paramount, meticulously crafted and protected this image. He was presented as the perfect man, handsome, honorable, and straight. He married New York socialite Veronica Rocky Balfe in 1933, and they had a daughter, Maria. To the public, he was the perfect family man, a real-life version of the heroes he played. He was close friends with other titans of masculinity, like Ernest Hemingway. He was even offered the role of Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind, though he famously turned it down. A widely circulated story claims he called it the biggest flop in Hollywood history and was glad it would be Clark Gable, not him, falling flat on his nose. While that quote is likely an exaggeration, his decision only added to his mythos as a man who followed his own mind. This was the Gary Cooper the world knew for over 30 years. A true icon of American masculinity. And it's this powerful image that makes the rumors of a secret, tormented private life so utterly shocking. Hollywood's golden age was built on illusion and not just on screen. The studios manufactured the lives of their stars, controlling everything from the roles they played to who they were seen with in public. Contracts had morality clauses, which allowed studios to fire actors for any behavior that could tarnish their public image. In such a socially conservative era, this gave studios almost total control over their stars. Private lives, the biggest secret to be kept was sexuality. For gay, lesbian, and bisexual actors, navigating Hollywood was a dangerous, balancing act. The press and the public enforced a rigid standard of heterosexuality. Being outed meant career suicide. This oppressive atmosphere led to lavender marriages, marriages of convenience, arranged by studios to hide an actor's true sexual orientation. They were sham unions designed to present a straight-facing public image while the star's real life remained hidden. Rock Hudson, for example, was famously pushed into a marriage with his agent's secretary, Phyllis Gates, to quiet rumors about his homosexuality. It was a world of smoke and mirrors where studio fixers buried scandals, and gossip columnists like Hedda Hopper and Luella Parsons could make or break a career with a single sentence. Stars lived in constant fear of their secrets being exposed. It's from this environment of secrecy and pressure that the whispers about Gary Cooper first emerged. Despite his carefully managed image as a devoted husband, behind the scenes, his life was anything but simple. His many well-documented affairs with female co-stars were legendary. But other, quieter rumors persisted, whispers of a different kind of secret life, one that, if exposed, would have destroyed the very foundation of his heroic persona. This brings us to the heart of the matter, the explosive rumor that has gained so much traction online. According to the story, Gary Cooper left something behind after his death. Some say it was a diary. Others claim it was a letter or a memoir draft found in a locked trunk at his Montana ranch. The alleged contents are dynamite. In this document, Cooper supposedly detailed his intimate relationships with 7 other men in Hollywood, all famous actors. But this wasn't a fond remembrance of past loves. The rumor claims the list was one of bitterness. It was a catalog of men he once cared for but had grown to hate, whether from betrayal, jealousy, or the emotional turmoil of their secret lives. The names attached to this supposed list are a who's who of Hollywood royalty: Cary Grant, Rock Hudson, Randolph Scott, Montgomery Clift, Anthony Perkins, James Dean, and a lesser-known actor named Anderson Lawler. If such a document existed, it would rewrite Hollywood history. It would not only suggest one of America's greatest symbols of masculinity was bisexual, but it would also paint a tragic picture of a man tormented by the secrets he had to keep. But is any of it true? Is there any credible evidence that this list, diary, or letter ever existed? Or is this just modern myth-making, a story woven from old gossip, speculation, and outright lies? To find out, we have to investigate the names on this alleged list. One by one, this is where the real investigation begins. We'll look at the 7 men most often named in these rumors and see if there's any historical basis to the claims. Of all the names on the list, Anderson Lawler is the most significant because their connection isn't pure fantasy. Lawler was a Paramount contract actor in the late 1920s and early 30s. He was witty, educated, and, by most accounts, openly gay within Hollywood's private social circles. The undisputed fact is that around 1929 and 1930, Gary Cooper and Anderson Lawler lived together. Cooper moved out of his parents' home and got a place on Franklin Avenue, and Lawler moved in with him. While this wasn't unusual for young actors, their relationship has been the subject of speculation for decades. Lawler reportedly coached Cooper on his southern accent for The Virginian. They took private weekend trips to Catalina Island, away from the prying eyes of the studio and Cooper's then-girlfriend, actress Lupe Velis. Some biographers like William J. Mahon have documented their close bond and written that Lawler kept a detailed scrapbook filled with pictures of Cooper. However, solid proof of a sexual relationship remains elusive. No letters from Cooper confessing his love have ever surfaced. What's clear is they had an intensely close friendship. Even after they stopped living together, allegedly due to studio pressure on Cooper, the two remained lifelong friends. The rumor that Lawler was on a hate list contradicts the fact that they maintained a friendship for decades. The bitterness seems to be a modern invention. So for Anderson Lawler, we have a documented, deeply personal relationship. But whether it was romantic and whether it ended in hatred remains in the realm of biographical speculation. Cary Grant, the epitome of suave charm, The idea of a relationship between the rugged Cooper and the debonair Grant is juicy gossip. The rumor claims they had a secret affair in the early 1930s, but Grant abruptly ended it after a near miss with a gossip columnist, leaving Cooper heartbroken and resentful. So, what's the reality? There is not a single piece of credible historical evidence to support a romantic relationship between Gary Cooper and Cary Grant. Nothing. No letters. No diary entries. No reputable biographical accounts. They were contemporaries and knew each other, but there's nothing to suggest they were ever lovers. This part of the rumor seems to be a case of gossip contagion. Cary Grant's own sexuality has long been debated, mostly because he lived for years with actor Randolph Scott, the creators of the Cooper's List myth likely just linked Cooper to Grant because Grant is another major star whose preva tragically shattered when he became one of the first major celebrities to die from AIDS-related complications. We now know Hudson was gay and lived a carefully hidden life. The rumor claims that an older Cooper was infatuated with Hudson but grew to resent him for living a double life. The reality check here is stark. There's no evidence of any romantic link between Gary Cooper and Rock Hudson. They were from different Hollywood generations. While they surely crossed paths at industry events, no biographical sources suggest anything more than a passing acquaintance. Including Hudson on the list just serves to link Cooper to one of Hollywood's most famously closeted stars, adding a layer of tragic irony to a baseless claim. Montgomery Clift was a new kind of star-sensitive, emotionally raw, and a pioneer of method acting. He was also a deeply troubled man who struggled with his sexuality and addiction. The story goes that he and Cooper had a torrid, volatile affair, but it became too intense, and Cooper grew to resent Clift for reflecting his own pain and self-denial. This is a psychologically compelling story, but it's completely unsubstantiated. There is no evidence that Gary Cooper and Montgomery Clift ever had an affair. Clift's own private life was tumultuous, making his name easy to pull into stories of secret Hollywood. But his inclusion on a list of Cooper's lovers has no basis. In fact, Anthony Perkins, forever known as Norman Bates in Psycho, is also on the list. Perkins had relationships with both men and women. The rumor claims he and Cooper had a brief, intense relationship in the mid-50s. But Perkins, terrified of being outed, pulled away, leaving Cooper feeling abandoned. Like the others, this story is fiction. There is no historical record of a relationship between them. Their age difference was significant, and there is simply nothing to support the claim. The narrative is a repeated trope in the myth. The older, wiser Cooper is hurt by the younger, more fearful actor, painting Cooper as a tragic figure. But there's no evidence for it. The final and most shocking name on the list is James Dean, the ultimate symbol of youthful rebellion. The rumor suggests a brief, wild affair between Dean and Cooper, who was decades his senior. Dean's recklessness supposedly both fascinated and enraged Cooper. This claim is the most far-fetched of all. James Dean and Gary Cooper occupied entirely different universes. Cooper was the old guard, the symbol of classic heroism. Dean was the new breed, the face of a restless generation. There is no credible evidence their paths ever crossed in any meaningful way, let alone in a secret affair. James Dean's own sexuality is a subject of debate, making him a prime target for this kind of myth-making, but his connection to Gary Cooper is a complete fabrication. To see the line between fact and fiction, we just have to look at the secrets Gary Cooper actually had. While the story of a gay hate list appears to be a modern myth, Cooper's private life was indeed filled with scandal. The difference is these scandals were with women, and they are very well documented. His marriage to Veronica Rocky Belf was marked by a series of high-profile affairs that were open secrets in Hollywood. One of his earliest and most stormy relationships was with the Mexican Spitfire, Lupe Velez. Their 3-year affair was a whirlwind of passion and violence. She was famously possessive, and stories from the time claim she once shot at him as he boarded a train. The relationship was so stressful that Cooper reportedly lost 40 pounds and suffered from ulcers. eventually fleeing to Europe for a year to recover after they broke up. In the 1940s, while married, Cooper began another affair, this time with Ingrid Bergman, his co-star in For Whom the Bell Tolls. Their on-screen chemistry was electric because it was real. The affair was discreet but known within the industry, but his most public and damaging affair was with the much younger Patricia Neal, his co-star in The Fountainhead. He was 47, she was 21. Their connection was immediate and evolved into a years-long relationship that became a major Hollywood scandal. Cooper's wife found out, and his teenage daughter, Maria, reportedly spat at Neal in public. The situation turned tragic when Neal became pregnant. Terrified of the career-destroying scandal, Cooper pressured her into an abortion, a decision Neal regretted for the rest of her life. These stories aren't rumors from internet forums. They're documented. In biographies, memoirs, and the press of the time, they show us that Gary Cooper was indeed a man living a life far more conflicted than his on-screen persona suggested. He was a man capable of deep passion, but also of causing immense pain. This is the real, documented dark side of Gary Cooper. So, after looking at all the evidence, what's the verdict? The claim that Gary Cooper kept a secret list of 7 gay actors he dated and despised is false. It's a myth. There's no credible evidence, no document, no reputable source that supports the existence of such a list. The story seems to be a modern invention, born and spread on the internet. Sensationalist YouTube channels and clickbait websites have cobbled together bits of Hollywood gossip, mixed them with speculation about figures like Anderson Lawler, and padded it all with completely fabricated quotes. Why is a myth like this so powerful? Because it makes for a great story. It taps into our fascination with the secret history of Hollywood. It offers a tidy, list-based narrative that's easy to share. And it promises to expose the truth behind a beloved icon, a formula that has fueled celebrity gossip for a century. The rumor cleverly exploits the very real secrecy of Hollywood's golden age. We know many stars were forced to hide their true selves, which makes it easier to believe any story about a secret life. The names on the list were chosen for maximum impact. Major stars like Grant and Hudson and tragic figures like Clifton Dean. But when you actually check the facts, the entire narrative collapses. Just because the list is fake, however, doesn't mean there aren't real secrets to uncover. The fabrication of the list actually points us toward a deeper truth, the suffocating pressure of an entire system, designed to enforce conformity. The full story of Gary Cooper's private life will probably never be known. His relationship with Anderson Lawler suggests a man who, at the very least, had deep and significant bonds with other men. Whether these relationships were sexual is, and will likely remain, a historical mystery. But the fact that even a close friendship with a known gay man had to be carefully managed says everything about the world he lived in, the real, dark side of the golden age wasn't just individual scandals. It was the crushing weight of the closet. It was the lavender marriages that forced people into lives of deceit. It was the morality clauses and studio fixers who could ruin lives. It was an environment where an actor's humanity was less important than their marketability. Gary Cooper, the icon of masculinity, would have been under more pressure than almost anyone to fit that ideal. Any hint of nonconformity would have threatened his entire career. Whether he was bisexual, straight, or something else, he was a prisoner of his own image. That is the real tragedy. Not a mythical list of hated lovers, but a lifetime of secrets, both documented and speculative, that point to a man in deep conflict with the heroic ideal he was paid to embody. In the end, the story of Gary Cooper's list is a fabrication. It's a piece of modern folklore that says more about our digital media landscape than it does about Gary Cooper, but dismissing the myth shouldn't mean dismissing the questions it raises. The man we see in the historical record is far more complicated than the simple hero of High Noon. He was a man who struggled with fidelity, who hurt people he loved, and who lived under the constant watchful eye of a ruthless studio system. In his later years, Cooper seemed to be searching for peace. He reconciled with his wife, Rocky, and began to explore religion more seriously, eventually converting to Catholicism in 1959, friends said his faith seemed to bring him a sense of solace that had long eluded him. He reportedly told a friend his conversion was the best thing I ever did. Just 2 years later, in 1961, Gary Cooper died of cancer at 60. He left behind a legacy as one of the most enduring stars in cinema history. But he also left behind a life of unanswered questions. The myth of the 7 actors he hated is a distortion. The truth is found in the shadows between the public image and the private man, in the silent pressures of a bygone era, and in the story of a Hollywood legend who may have been just as human and just as tormented as the complex characters he's so brilliantly portrayed on screen. What do you think of these revelations? Does the truth behind the myth change your perception of Gary Cooper? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this investigation into Hollywood's hidden history, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more untold stories from the Golden Age.